I've been often asked how I got into the equality and human rights field and how I shaped my career. And my answer has been pretty simple. My life experience. So everything that I've been through from a young age has helped to shape my career. The disadvantages, the barriers, the discrimination to an extent that I experienced. It really empowered and ignited this passion in my belly that I wanted to make a difference in whatever I did, especially for minority communities who possibly may face similar issues that I experienced growing up. So so that's how I got into equality and human rights and my career in terms of what I do today. So going back to the early 1980s, I grew up in a small northern town in Greater Manchester, a family that had just migrated to the UK. The town that was very racially divided and segregated. We lived in a predominantly Asian area. I attended a predominantly white school. I had a lot of white friends. In fact, I had a lot of diverse friends, which was excellent because it allowed me to develop and learn so much about different cultures and people from different backgrounds. And even today, my circle of friends reflect that diversity, which I'm really proud of. And my interaction and my friendship has helped me to make me the person who I am today. It's really opened my mind. But having said all of that though, so growing up was pretty tough. It was pretty tough. No, I'm not going to be behind the bush about it. As well as the barriers within the community, being called a Paki, being called a immigrant, being called a coconut, something that I couldn't even fathom, to kind of understand it, what it meant. And that's the one that I think that really kind of sticks in my mind. Because later on, when I kind of understood the terminology, it really baffled me because on the one hand, I had my own community, my own people saying, you know what, you don't belong with us, you're not one of us, you're too glorified, the Punjabi term of, you're trying to be a white person. And then on the other hand, I had the host community who basically just looked at me as another young Pakistani man with brown skin. So I felt lost. I was trying to find my identity, who I was I British, was I Muslim, Pakistani, English. I was trying to find that place to fit in, and I was trying to search for that acceptance. On top of that, there was a lot of family pressure in terms of being a role model for my younger siblings, conforming to what was expected from a South Asian individual by my family, by the community. It felt like that I was always living their dream rather than what I wanted to be and who I was. There was a lot of expectation to conform to society pressure, unfortunately, which also had a very an impact and an effect on my well-being, my happiness. So that kind of continued to when we moved out from that small town, and we moved towards the south, just outside the M25, and I was at a high school for only a few months. And I remember one of my teachers, actually, I think it was the head of year, who sat me down and said, Mohammed, as you've recently just moved from the north to the south, the examination boards are quite different. So in order to make up the numbers for the number of GCSEs that we can enter you for, are there any subject areas that you think you'll be able to enter? So I looked up and I said to him, maybe Urdu, because my parents ensured that I learned that, and I'm really grateful for it today. And I'm really passionate about dance and drama, so maybe I'll do quite well in that. So lo and behold, I was entered for those three subjects, and I did get A to C. But it was only later on that I realised it was a no-no, because going into drama or dance or movies, it wasn't something that was expected from someone like me. purely because of who I was and my background and my culture. So that was a no-no. I started working at a fairly young age, actually, at the age of 16, as a sole bread earner for my family, looking after my younger siblings and my mother. And on numerous occasions at numerous different workplaces, I was a witness to banter and jokes, homophobic banter and jokes, racial banter and jokes, and even Islamophobic jokes, which unfortunately at that time I had to just sit there and listen, turn a blind eye to, pretend that I didn't hear them, ignore them, because I didn't have the courage, I didn't have the I wasn't in the position to actually stand up and confront those individuals and say, actually, you know what, I don't like you saying this because you're talking about me here, you're talking about my community and my family, and no, it's not the right thing to do. But I didn't have the courage, I didn't have the strength to stand up, to put my head above the parapet, as you say, to challenge those individuals. And unfortunately, it was something that I just had to live with on a predominantly a daily basis, to be fair. And nor was there anybody else who was willing to stick their head above the parapet and speak out for me. Somebody who I could look up to as an ally. There wasn't anybody there. I wish there was. I wish there was one, two, even a few allies who did speak up for me, who were probably in a more privileged position than I was, and who actually stood up for me. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case at that time. There also weren't any role models either. I mean, role models in the media, in the magazines, the newspapers, television. We never had social media at that time, so I'm probably showing my age now. But there weren't any role models who I could kind of relate to, somebody who looked like me, sounded like me, represented me, that I could relate to and look up to and say, actually, you know what? Yeah, there is hope. If they can do it, I can do it. One day, I'll get there. So, yeah, it was a pretty lonely place growing up in my teens, early 20s. A place where I felt lost, isolated. There was a lot of barriers, there was a lot of disadvantages, and a lack of allies and a lack of role models. So a pretty lonely place. And fortunately for me, what that did was it just inspired me even more. It motivated me even more, just to believe that, you know what, life doesn't have to be like this. The world doesn't have to be like this. And in my small little way, I can still make a difference. And that's where I became really passionate about equality, diversity, inclusion, human rights, and almost became an activist as well. So yeah, there was a bit of activism in me as well. Fast forward to the current day and age, we're in 2020. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of inequality, injustice, discrimination happening across the world, in the world which we live in today. I have nephews and nieces growing up, and I look at their future and I look about their identity, and I think to myself, will they still face that same prejudice, that same barrier, the same discrimination which I experienced 25, 30 years ago? Has the world changed? Have we made any progress? We absolutely have made progress, but I think we are kind of going backwards to an extent as well, unfortunately so. So hence why it's even more important why we stand together, shoulder to shoulder, in unity right now. With everything that's happened in America, we have somebody like George Floyd who gets shot and killed. He's not the only black man who's been shot and killed. There's been many more since his death. Unfortunately, we still got over 70 countries in the world where it is illegal just to be yourself, just to be who you are, to be lesbian, gay, bisexual or trans. It is still unlawful in over 70 countries. We still have predominantly young black men being stopped and searched for no reason, disproportionately. minority groups across the world are still being persecuted, unfortunately. We still need equality, diversity legislation for basic protection. That shouldn't be the case. In an ideal world, we shouldn't need equalities legislation just for individuals to be themselves, just to have that fairness and that equality of opportunity. But unfortunately, that is the case, I'm afraid, and there's a long way to go. So potentially we have come a long way in terms of equality and equal rights and human rights, but there is also a long, long way to go, I'm afraid. And one way we can make a difference, and one way we can kind of stand together in solidarity is through being an ally for individuals and community groups who don't necessarily enjoy the same privilege that we do. So here goes how you become an ally. So first of all, it's really important to kind of understand the privilege. So as an ally, it's important to understand the privilege. So I'm not talking about your parents are multimillionaires, they're lauded, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. That's fine. Good luck to you. What I'm talking about is kind of consciously thinking about, you can book a holiday, you can jump on the plane and you can land at a foreign exotic location without the thought, without the fear of, I may not be able to do that because I happen to be LGBT, and it may not be safe for me to travel to certain countries because of that. You may have a nice flashy car, you jump in it, you go for a drive without any fear, without any worry. But if you're a young black male, you might have to think 2 or 3 times before you do that. You may not even have to worry about, people moving away and changing seats when you jump onto a train or a tube. If you're a man with brown or black skin, with a long beard and you have a hat on your head and you're perceived to be a Muslim, that might happen to you as well. So when I'm talking about privilege, that's what I'm referring to. So just trying to understand, the things that you don't have to worry about, and that's privilege. Number 2, just be yourself. For inspiration on how to be an effective ally, you just need to only reflect on your own personal values, your morals and your beliefs, and ask yourself and your colleagues, how would you like to be treated at work, in society, when you go out? So when you're in the office next time and you hear somebody or colleagues having a bit of banter, making some jokes or stereotyping about certain communities, certain groups, ask yourself, how would you feel if that was you, if you were in the place of that group that's being mocked? Number 3, listen and do your homework. Take time to do your research and really learn about the issue at hand, and do not expect that the people you're standing up for, the people you're being an ally to, that they're going to train and develop you. Nah, that's not going to happen. So take the onus on yourself. Do some research, develop your knowledge, which will really help you to be an effective ally. And also, it's really important to zip it when you need to. So you're not the lead, you're the support, you're the ally. So when you're required to, take a step back and be quiet. Number 4, be visible and speak up. Make clear public statements about the importance of equality and diversity inclusion. Not just for you, but also for your organisation. Challenge banter, challenge jokes and unwanted behaviour within your organisation, within your community, even within family gatherings. And we're all going to make mistakes. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. We're human. It's a learning curve for all of us. We will fall down, brush up, get back up, and just keep going. And number 5, and probably the most important one out of all of them, is put words into practice. Saying that you're an ally is simply not enough. You've got to walk the walk. You've got to do the work. You've got to stand up. You've got to sing. You've got to be heard. So these are just a few of the tips in terms of how you can be an effective ally. Just before I finish off though, and thank you for listening to me by the way, just before I finish off, I want to just kind of read out a quote which is very close to my heart, and it kind of inspires me to continue on a daily basis. It's by somebody called Martin Niemöller, and it goes like this. First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and guess what? I wasn't a trade unionist. It didn't bother me. I didn't speak out. Then they came for the Jews, and I never spoke out because I wasn't a Jew. They then came for me, and there was no one left to speak up for me. I don't know about you, but I found that really, really powerful and really relevant right now, because right now, more than ever, it is important that we stand shoulder to shoulder and we stand up for each other. Hashtag in unity, we are stronger. Thank you for listening to me today. Have a good day. Take care and look after yourself.